there again. It's been a while. This is my first video for a few weeks, largely because the autumn conference season started, fall conference season for our American visitors. Of course, we weren't there. I should have been in Chicago, I should have been in Manchester, I should have been in Budapest. But instead, the label master through DG Exchange and Label Line and the European Petrochemical Association, EPCA, came to us by shifting their events online. And I learned a lot. And some of the best stuff will be in next month's HCB, November issue, which I'm still writing. There was a lot about regulation, certainly at the Label Master and Label Line events, and a lot about how the chemical industry and its logistics service providers are coping during COVID and trying to make headway with the process of digitalisation towards sustainability and a circular economy. It's all very good stuff. But the other thing I learned from watching all these, sat here in my office, is that the interesting differences in approaches to using the technology that we're becoming used to using in order to keep in touch during this period. Each of those three events that I mentioned took a different route to getting people, getting presenters and their presentations in front of an audience. I have to say they got pretty good audiences too. I think for a lot of us, it's actually quite nice to take a break for 2 hours and sit in front of a screen and watch somebody else talking for a while. But it was watching people talking that made me think that we still need work to do. For instance, at one of the events, there was a lot of trouble quite often during handovers from one presenter to another. Now, you may say, and I did think about this, that if it's a live event, you still have the same problems. And at a good, well-run event, the changeover from one speaker to another is seamless. And if the AV team is on its mettle, then you don't even notice. But the difference when we're doing presentations remotely like this is we're working from home. We don't have an IT professional on hand to say, no, don't do it like that, do it like this, make sure you've got that ready. And so we're all sort of amateurs at being filmed. Most of us are anyway. I think there were one or two who did a very good job. Dwayne Fund from PHMSA in the States in particular, very good presentation, very neatly done. Like that a lot, and a lot to say. But there are a few things, I think, as we get used to this, that we're going to have to remember. And it's about being on screen. It's about camera, lights, action, really. That's what it goes back to. For a start, there were people who had got their systems set up nicely so that they were well arranged, be in front of a fairly blank background so as not to provide cause for irritation and distraction. Sorry, I left that bit in the screen today. And the big one, of course, not to have a window right behind you, because unless you're working with professional camera equipment, that is going to cause major problems. And your camera on your computer or even a standard SLR digital probably won't be able to cope with that unless you know how to work it. Second thing, when you're doing that, people, you could tell that some people were using a laptop or what do you call those things, the little thing, tablet, that's the word. And it was on the desk in front of them. And so they end up looking down like that. And you, the viewer, looking through the camera, are looking up their nose, which is not attractive, frankly. So if it's your turn soon to do a presentation online, try and get the camera at the same height as your face, and then you're looking at it naturally. Also, there were very few people who did this, and it was noticeable when they did do it. Look at the camera. Find out where the camera is on your computer and look at that. Talk to the camera. Don't talk to your presentation. Don't talk to the screen that's showing what you look like. Because if you want to connect with the people who are looking at you, you need to be looking them in the eye. Now, I can't see your eyes from here, but I know that if I'm looking at the camera, I'll be looking at you. Which takes me back actually to a long time ago when I was at university, and I spent rather too much time, I must say my 3 years, on the campus radio station and presenting on air. And the best tip that anybody gave me when I started, because of course, if you're not used to it, the fact that you can hear your own voice is a bit weird. It doesn't sound like how you think it does. But the best advice I got was, you're there at the mixing desks with turntables and a big microphone hanging in front of you. So you're just talking to the microphone as if you're talking to somebody else, as if you're talking to one person in the room right there and talking to the microphone like that. That's the other thing. You don't need to shout. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to be clear. But most of the equipment that we're using, I've got a very nice Apple here and the camera's good and the sound's good. But on a tablet, it's not always like that. But you don't have to shout because it will be able to cope with managing the sound quality and the sound level in particular. And it does sound very forced. I've seen this on TV as well, in fact, when some of the panel shows were experimenting with ways of carrying on during lockdown. Because it seems like we will be in lockdown for a while yet, and there are plenty more industry events coming up in the next couple of months. And then who knows, when we get around to spring next year, are we still going to be here? I wouldn't be at all surprised. The other thing, of course, presentation. You've got to present yourself. You are presenting yourself. You're not just presenting your paper. And so, check what you look like before you. Sorry, I'm not really. This is a more informal presentation, I suppose. So I don't necessarily have to look too smart. But if you're a guy, have a shave, for instance, unless you've got a beard, brush your hair, stuff like that. Have a wash, even. And generally, I'd be told, and again, I'm breaking that rule today, don't wear busy clothing because it's a distraction. Wear something plain and ordinary. So that's my thoughts for this week, which are absolutely nothing to do with the transport of dangerous goods and all to do with how to make an effective presentation during lockdown. And I hope some of you may have found that interesting. I nearly forgot. Yes, there was one thing, and I found it really irritating. A very interesting presentation, very nice setup, nice clean office, nicely dressed speaker, and he's wearing an earpiece so he could hear, which is a good idea because you don't want that delay if your machine is playing what somebody else is saying. There's quite likely to be a brief lag, and if it's on loud, it's on speaker, then you get this irritating hiccup. So he got an earpiece in, and the wire kept catching on his collar button. And every time it did that, you heard an audible click, and it went on for 20 minutes or whatever it was. I wanted to reach out and cut it off, actually. So take care about stuff like that. Practice, do a dry run. You can do it on Zoom or whatever. Just record it, see what you look like, and learn from it. And hopefully you'll be a better presenter. I don't know if I am, but thank you for your interest. Thank you for watching. And I shall be back next week with some more detail on the outcome of some of those conferences and events I mentioned. So till then, stay well. Good to see you. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.